if you make a call that's wrong.
All right, Congressman Khanna, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We really
Fucking nasty business,
We're
man.
joined now by Israel's ambassador to the United States, Dr. Michael Leiter.
Yeah, this is the guy who ripped in the Rokon on Face
Good to
the
have you
Nation.
back here.
ZBS Face the Nation.
Good morning.
Your prime minister this morning has been honoring Senator Lindsey Graham. I know he was a fierce advocate for Israel. And he also was really pushing for normalization of relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Just 3 weeks ago on this program, he made that pitch. I wonder if you think there is a way to carry on his legacy through continuing that kind of diplomatic work.
Well, absolutely. Lindsey was a dear friend. My first day in Washington, January 27, 2025, the first phone call I got once I landed on my seat in the embassy was from Lindsey Graham. He said, "Can we have dinner?"
Huh. Interesting. Wow. I'm shocked. The first phone call you got was from Lindsey Graham, Israeli ambassador to the United States of America. Wow. Yeah, dog. He was checking in.
Tonight. And we've been talking about normalization in the Middle East for the past year and a half. And he was not only a fierce advocate of defeating this Iranian regime, he was also a fierce advocate of what would happen afterwards. And he had a vision for peace in the Middle East. And absolutely, we have to work toward that end. But it really is going to happen if his first part of that vision is fulfilled. And that's that Iran is no longer a regional hegemon menacing its neighbors.
Well, 3 weeks ago, Lindsey Graham said on this program, 2026. That was his vow that normalization would happen. So we'll have to follow that. We still have some time. Let me ask you about the other significant development overnight with Iran. The attempt to revive this truce between the United States and Iran clearly has just collapsed. This was just an attempt to have a pause to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, frankly. It was pretty limited in scope. But then the IRGC fired on a commercial vessel. The United States has resumed bombing. For the moment, Iran has not fired on Israel. Israel has not fired on Iran. Does Israel intend to stay on the sidelines? How do we see this conflict at this point?
President Trump has been consistent, I think, throughout this confrontation. If talks will work, if diplomacy can work, then he's in favor of the diplomatic route. But when it doesn't work, you have to go back to military and kinetic activity. When the United States signed the MOU with Iran just a few weeks ago, there was one item, just one thing that the Iranians had to fulfill, and that was keeping the straits open. And that they've completely ignored. So they forced the U.S. to go back into kinetic activity. We're a partner or an ally. If the United States calls on us to rejoin kinetic activity against Iran, we're going to be there for the United States.
But at the moment, the U.S. is asking you to wait.
I didn't say that. I said the United States has not asked us to join the effort. But if that request will come in, we're going to be there.
Well, that MOU, when it was signed by the president Versailles and then by the vice president, your government was opposed to this. You made no mistake that Prime Minister Netanyahu saw big flaws in this deal. When you saw what happened, was there a moment of "I told you so" here?
No.
Can I be honest? I'm not crazy when I look at this conversation and think that, like, we as American citizens, people in the media, other even like American government officials, unironically, seemingly put Israel's interests above the interests, the respectability, the dignity of Americans. Because this conversation is psychotic. Like, she's literally like, hey, did you have a "I told you so" moment when Donald Trump, that fucking idiot, signed the treasonous treaty in Versailles instead of abiding by Israel's highest priorities of continuing the war? Like, I'm not a patriotic person, right? I'm not a nationalist at all. But I don't understand how you could, in any way, shape, or form, feel a sense of patriotism. And even if you, like, hate the president, if you're an American citizen and you hear an American anchor talk to the Israeli ambassador like this, where she very visibly, very openly places Israel's interests above the interests of American foreign policy, above the moves that American foreign policy is making, doesn't that piss you off? It's so fucking weird.
No, that's not the nature of our relationship. We express our opinion. We saw flaws, but we also expressed hope that it would work. If at the end of the day, 60 days after the MOU, we've got a denuclearized Iran, we've got Iran not producing ballistic missiles
That is the
and
most
not
aggressive
supporting their
timeline
proxies.
in history.
Well, if it would be 90 days or 120 days, if we have Iran that's denuclearized, not building ballistic missiles, not supporting proxies around the region, just not being a menacing, mayhem-spreading regime, then we will have accomplished it without kinetic activity. We have doubts about the possibility of that actually working, but all we do is express our opinion.
Well, very clear about the very first few lines of the MOU that mentioned Lebanon, and that's where I want to go next. Because the U.S. has been trying to broker these talks between the Israeli government and the Lebanese government to essentially work together against Hezbollah, which is backed by Iran. Under the framework that was reached last month, Israel pledged to withdraw from areas of southern Lebanon. Do you still intend to do that? What does that timeline look like?
Well, I'm actually leading the negotiations on Israel's behalf with Lebanon, so I know a thing or two about the trilateral agreement. And what the agreement with Lebanon does is completely remove Iran from the paradigm. Iran is not to be involved in Lebanon. They have no business in Lebanon. Hezbollah has no business.
What about you guys? You have all the business in Lebanon, not Iran.
In Lebanon. As a matter of fact, Israel and Lebanon are on the same page. We want Hezbollah out for our security and for their sovereignty. We can withdraw the moment that Hezbollah is dismantled.
Wow.
If Hezbollah is not dismantled, then we have to stay in our security zone because we're not going to go back to a situation where our citizens are going to be threatened by an Iranian proxy firing missiles and building tunnels so they can attack like Hamas did October 7th.
Yeah, you know what's crazy about this? There's one party that this American Israeli is talking about that is actually Lebanese. You got the Comprador government, okay? They're Lebanese. Do they care about the interests of the Lebanese population? Not really, but it doesn't matter. They're still Lebanese. Israel is not Lebanese. America is not Lebanese. You know who is Lebanese? Fucking Hezbollah.
Well, that's different from what U.S. State Department has lined up here, which is specifically to pilot zones.
True. Austin Show is also, I'm gay and Lebanese. Yeah.
That Israel is supposed to withdraw from and CENTCOM would oversee.
They're pilot zones.
When does that happen?
Pilot zones. Well, we're preparing it right now, but the whole idea of the pilot zone.
Lebanon has said that's delayed.
No, it's not delayed. We're working together with CENTCOM and the Lebanese armed forces to create the conditions so that we can actually move into a situation where the pilot zones are receptive to Lebanese armed forces. If they're not going to be receptive and Hezbollah is going to stay there, we haven't accomplished anything. And that's why they're called pilot zones. If it works, then we continue the withdrawal. If it doesn't work, then we stay where we are.
Are you still going to Rome to conduct these talks? And will those pilot zone withdrawals happen anytime soon?
I certainly hope they're planned for the next few weeks. We're working on that together with CENTCOM. Am I still going to Rome? That's going to be a question regarding the Senator Graham funeral, but certainly the talks will continue in Rome.
Well, before I let you go, there were two high-profile incidents I want to quickly touch on here. One, a CNN crew attacked in the West Bank by what they say were 4 settlers. There was also an incident with Ro Khanna, the congressman from California, who said he was his vehicles he was in were stopped by Israeli settlers, and then when the IDF showed up, they were on the side of the settlers, not him. He said it's not a good idea to detain long-shot president.
Jesus fucking Christ, is state propaganda? Yeah, but the craziest part about it is that it's state propaganda, but not for America. You understand? This is state propaganda for Israel. I know it says CBS Face the Nation, but it quite literally is not American state propaganda, which is expected. Is doing Israeli state propaganda.
Presidential candidates. It was a warning to your government. Do you think your government needs to apologize to both him and those CNN journalists?
Any violence is to be condemned. No excuses, no explanations. Okay, so if CNN crew was attacked, that needs to be condemned, and I'm doing so right now. And we need to do a better job.
You are condemning it. Their report.
Wait, what about Ro Khanna? This is why I ignore these ridiculous stories that keep coming from CBS and Axios. A rogue sect blew up one of the transiting ships. Absurd on its face. Try harder. Yeah, we're going to get to that in a second.
If it was actually took place as they've reported it, absolutely condemning it. We need to rein in violence on all sides. Now, in terms of Ro Khanna.
On all sides? Bitch, what do you mean? CNN? Yeah, we got to stop with the violence that Jeremy Diamond is engaging in. What the fuck do you mean? Condemn violence on all sides, dumbass. One side is Jeremy Diamond. The other side are a bunch of psychotic settlers. What do you mean we must condemn violence on all sides? Anyway, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse because now he's going to talk about Ro Khanna.
We reached out to him when we heard he was going to Israel, the Israeli embassy here in Washington. As all congressmen do, they coordinate their trip with the Israeli government. We suggested he visit with survivors of the October 7th massacre, that he visit the borders so he understands the issues that we have on our borders and so on. He ignored that, and he decided to coordinate his trip not with Israel, but with Palestinian activists and with J Street, which is a anti-government, anti-Israeli government advocacy group here in Washington.
Bro, saying that about J Street is so nutty. Saying that about J Street is so crazy to me. Like, J Street is objectively pro-Israel. It is a fucking pro-Israel advocacy group, man. Jesus Christ. This motherfucker said J Street is Hamas.
So, you know, he coordinated.
It's a Jewish Slavic group.
Well, it's
that is supportive of a different path for Israel.
Yeah. I play tennis once a year. That doesn't make me a tennis player. The fact that they call themselves a Jewish organization is irrelevant. They're a advocacy group against the government of Israel.
Oh, he's a settler himself? That makes sense. Dude. It's so funny. Dude, so many of these fucking settlers are American. It's unbearable. Like, I feel like Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich are unique. So many of these fucking settlers are American, dude. Straight up.
That has to be clear.
Netanyahu government.
Yes.
Is
so
what you mean. The government you work for currently.
And Congressman Khanna has made no secret about his antipathy towards the government of Israel as well. So perhaps if he would have coordinated the trip and then, you know, to have this incident on Wednesday and wait to release it on Saturday, maybe this had more something to do with his support of Graham Plattner beforehand and the difficulties he had with that and trying to shift the focus.
Why is she laughing? She like went,
to something else, perhaps? I'm asking a question.
Well, we did hear from Congressman Khanna, who said that there was an alert to the embassy on his behalf, and that they asked for the news to be held until he had left the country.
There was not an alert. There was a question about visas. That's all. But when we requested that he coordinate the trip with us, he rejected that by basically staying silent. So that's unfortunate. This whole incident is unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's crazy that he's basically telling every American politician listening to this right now that if you don't coordinate with us, who knows what might happen to you. Like, don't even think about going with J Street and not coordinating with the Israeli government. Isn't that crazy? Who the fuck do you think you are, man? God, I hate this shit. Serious question. Why does he have to coordinate with them? Because, unfortunately, we have this weird attitude where we treat Israel like it's the only country that matters. Many of our politicians, many of those in positions of power, many of them present this as like the lay of the land, the law of the land.
Last conversation on Face the Nation with Lindsey Graham, and the senator said, if this deal fails, President Trump is going to take the Strait of Hormuz over by force. The U.S. will control the Strait of Hormuz. That was 3 weeks ago. How does the United States end up controlling the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, Margaret, we certainly have the capability to control the Strait of Hormuz if the president.
Wait, really? Wait, that's so strange. That's cool. No, that's cool. I just don't understand why we didn't use it. You know? Like, that sounds great. I just don't know why we didn't use it up until this moment. Yeah, speaking as someone who coordinated his trip with the Israeli government, here it is.
Jewish man, look, Jewish.